What's up, y'all? How's it going? So, today we're going to talk about some information I came across. Some very early information about the Tartarian Empire in North America. This video is a little bit of a debunking video. There's this video by this, there's a video I made debunking this guy's video, Simon Dan. He's a English dude who thinks he's really, really, really smart, and that the mainstream story about history and science, word for word, is an absolute fact. Simon Dan believes everything anyone else said. His video about the Tartarian Empire, very little information in it. The only information he gave about Tartaria was reading the first page of the Wikipedia, where it basically says that Tartaria is like a Western kind of vague term for a certain region in Eastern Europe that is kind of unknown, which is a pretty good excuse for the whole deception around hiding the Tartarian Empire. So anyway, if you haven't watched either of these videos, you should watch them. His video is called The Mud... Actually, just watch my video, because we don't need to be giving him any views. My video is called The Mud Flood Reset Time Forgot. Simon Dan Gets Destroyed. It doesn't have many views, but I've already gotten some thumbs down and some of his fanboys talking shit in the comments. So, anyway, we're going to be looking at this region, and we are going to be looking at this book, The Muscovites in California, or rather, a demonstration of the passage from North America discovered by the Russians and of the ancientest one of the peoples who transmigrated there from Asia. So this is a English version of a old European, I'm not going to say an almanac, but it's basically a history book from 1759, pre-American Revolution, written in London about, and this is a collaboration of many different explorers, maps, and information that they got by exploring the world. This is the book. The actual book is right here. It's obviously in some crazy languages. But very, very, very interesting book. You guys should all go immediately online and find this and read it. It's very easy to read. It's not using a lot of fancy language and stuff like that. But it basically explains how and when the Muscovites, Tartarians, Muscovites are, we're going to look at a different book real quick right here. So, a system of geography, dissertation of creation and various phenomena of the terra aqueous globe. It's basically in London, basically, again, not really an almanac, but just information about the world. Basic facts and stuff about different countries. So in this book, the globe is divided into Europe. The globe is divided into Europe, Asia, Africa, and America. And then that's the habitable earth, and then there's seas and unknown parts, but they don't know. So in this list, you'll see Asia, you'll see Turkey, Arabia, I don't know what that is. India, China, and then Tartary down here. 7. Number 7. Tartary, which is we all know, who are Tartarian researchers, we know there were several different Tartarians. There were Chinese Tartarians, also known now as the Manchurians. There was independent Tartaria, which we believe was a multicultural group. And there is the Muscovites, which is the largest group of Tartarians, which are the Russian Tartarians. These 3 groups, there's also Mongolian. I mean, that's kind of in there with the Chinese Tartarians. There's Mongolian Tartarians, and there's many different kinds. But they hold the largest group of space, of mass, out of any of the other groups in the world. Simon Dan was trying to play the Tartarian Empire down like it was just a region that didn't have its own people or something like that. But it's definitely not how he was explaining it. So, knowing that the Empire Tartaria held the most land in the world, and knowing that, so getting away from this book and back to, let's see, I think we're going to start with, yeah, we got these, let's go to 4, we got that, let's go to 5. So, this is Muscovia, where the Muscovites are from, the Tartarians. This is northern Russia. Moscow, Muscovia, Muscovites from Moscow, Russian Tartarians. Russian Tartarians holding the most land of any country in the world. Simon Dan said something about Tartarians not having a lot of hold on the world, or not having a lot of control. And if the Tartarians had more land than anyone else in the world, then that would say that they have more power than anyone else in the world. So I'm gonna be popping back at these Simon Dan things, because he made this video with basically no research whatsoever. He pulled something off Wikipedia and basically just trash talked it the whole time. And he also said that there were no Tartarians in North America. So this is kind of what I'm doing here. A deeper dive into debunking and destroying Simon Dan's opinion of the Tartarian Empire. So anyway, Muscovia, northern Russia. This is the White Sea. This is where we all, us Tartarian researchers, know is the homeland of Tartaria. And with all these maps, plenty of accounts. So, this is, there's a lot of different looking maps from back in this region. So this book is basically talking about from 480 AD to 1492, when Columbus allegedly found North America, and then from 1492 to like the 1750s, before the American Revolution. So this is one example. There are many examples of maps. There are some examples of maps that even show California being a giant island. I don't know if water levels were different back then, higher, lower, not really sure, but a lot of these maps, North America and the Pacific coast are there's always a different look to them. California tends to be mostly on Baja California, which is Mexican territory. But you will see in a lot of these maps that it will say California over here, and all the way up through Alaska. It doesn't say anything else. So California kind of was its own region or country, should I say, back then, because it was very much named, but it was mostly named for the West Coast. And as well as here, you could see California being the West Coast. Once you head in, it's New Mexico, which it's not like our state, New Mexico. That was just the region of this continent was called New Mexico. And then when you went farther, you ended up in regular Mexico. Mexico was an annex of Spain. They pieced out on Spain and got their independence and became Mexico. So anyway, this there are a lot of maps that look like this where it doesn't, we're taught, we're grown up, we're taught in school, that the map, the United States, big, front, center, proud. But anyway, this is a different look at the map. Another strange thing, part of Alaska is actually called Fusang, and Fusang Dashanois, which is was a Chinese territory. A lot of people might not know that, but a big part of Alaska, or a big part of Canada or something, there was a very large island, it might even be the San Juan Islands or something like that, was actually a Chinese territory. But anyway, so yeah, getting back to that. Did I not do 7? I did do 7. So this is an even older map where we're seeing the Bering Strait, which is basically the closest point between Alaska and Russia, or Northern Europe, or Asia, sorry, it's called Asia, not Eastern Europe. So, as you can see, it's not very big. And as you can see, you'll see these little cities on that side, and rivers and trees, and these cities go right into North America, Alaska, Canada, little cities dotted all over the place, and teepees. So, teepees, this is great. Teepees are another big part of the deception. Teepees are Tartarian living structures. In the US, they shove teepees, being Native American living structures, down our throats to hide the true, the truth, basically. So you'll see on a lot of these maps in Tartaria these perfect little teepees, and so how come we weren't taught this? That North America was most definitely, look at cities, boof, 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 boof. Anyway, so Bering Strait, this is an important place. We're going to come back to this a couple times. Also, if you notice, if you go over here, you can see Nefertiti Tartars, Danihi Tartars. So obviously there were Tartarians living in that region way back when. So here's a little zoom in. There's even some more. There's Falari Tartari and Monghi Tartari. That might be Mongolians. So there are all these regions of Asia with their own flavors of Tartarians. And we're never taught anything about this. So the Strait of, I forgot it again, Bering, the Bering Strait, which is right here, it used to be called the Strait di Aniano. Bering, Mr. Bering, Captain Bering, we'll get back to in a minute. He's another interesting character in this whole thing. So these are obviously latitude lines. So this is, or longitude lines. So this isn't just some child scribbling a map together. This is a very famous map that you can look at. Anyway, so yeah, Tartarians all over the place. Here is a back out of that map, a blow up. So here we are, we're the Bering, all the Tartarians over here. We have Alaska, California, into Baja. So this is the entire west coast. So when you think in your head, you know, oh man, how could Tartarians from Europe, you know, have been living in California? Here you go. It's really not that far. And if you see, boom, city, 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 all over the west coast. Tartarian cities. Settlements. How is this possible? And this isn't the only map. So if you're going to say, oh, this might be the only map that shows this. No, there's tons of maps that show this. Tons of maps even more clear than this, showing even bigger cities where you see like cathedrals and like clearly cities. So this is another map. This is the Chinese Tartarian. The earliest. This is the route that the Chinese took into Alaska. This is supposed to be the Aleutians. Again, you know, I don't know if there was something different with water levels back in the day, but or if it was just early map making and they sail along here and they saw land and they just kind of drew it like this instead of the nice little clean map that we now have this. You know, you could kind of see where they could easily have messed that up. But if you look at the date, 458 before Jesus Christ, or after day. So this is the route of the Chinese to America, 458. So Fusang, which is in Alaska or Canada, it's a big island, was literally full of Chinese people way back in the day. Yeah, and they don't tell us that. So you see Canada in some maps is called Francia. So how did if we gave Canada to France for saving us in the Revolution, how was it called Francia before the Revolution? So this is just an early route of people from that region. I'm just trying to make it, trying to show you how easy it is to get here from Asia. When I visited Japan, I remember I was shocked that we were going north because we flew from California over Alaska, over Siberia, over to Japan, because they just don't really, I don't know if they just, the powers that be in the media and the schools just don't push that it's that, they push that it's so far away, but it really isn't. So this is a map of the Moscovian routes. I'm going to give a link below to where you can take a better look at all these maps. But what the Muscovites, they would come down from northern Russia up here. They would come down through the Bering Strait and go to Kamchatka. Kamchatka was a very popular hub back in the Dizzle. And then, you can see the route, they go across, and these are islands, and they would come across, and you can read these guys' accounts where they say that, they never lost sight of land. They were always in shallow water, coming across here. This is Kamchatka, so this is Tartaria up here. These dudes would sail down through here, go to Kamchatka, and they go boof right across into Alaska and down onto the west coast, where obviously the weather's better than up here. The whole point of coming out this way is to get to better weather. So the idea that it would be hard for Tartarians to come into North America is just ridiculous, or the fact that they weren't here, like Simon Dan was trying to say. But we'll keep going on this. So these dudes, these dudes were making these trips. They already had the routes out on the maps in talking between 1492 and 1750. This was all known. And we have, all this evidence of these maps. Like, why would people they'd just be making maps and, drawing cities in North America if they didn't even know what it looked like, or if there was, it just doesn't, I get that, Smithsonian can control, the dialogue and, there are people that can, it just, these maps being all fake doesn't seem realistic. So there we have a close-up. What's the guy? Route to Kamchatka, Captain Takirikow. That's the Tartarian captain that established this route from Kamchatka along the Aleutians to Alaska. They'd also just jump across the Bering Strait. Just super easy, but this was so much more treacherous and cold and stuff up there. This route was actually a lot easier. Obviously, they'd be doing it in the summer. I just didn't know. So now we're getting into Bering. So Captain Bering, where'd that go? 13. So this is this is a page of that book. In order northeast. I'm far away from the thought of referring to all preparations that the Tsar Peter the Great had made in Russia for the geography of the empire before I arrived there. It is enough to say what he did in particular in order to inform himself of the boundaries of Tartary to the northeast and to ascertain if it was contiguous, united, or only very near to America. Basically, the Tsar of Russia didn't really, had only heard and, seen things and seen maps and heard accounts of what was going on down there. And so he wanted to send the Danish pilot, Mr. Bering, who was really old, in 1725 to go map out and figure out this route across to North America from Asia. So Bering, his first expedition, was on land. But then when he went to sea, he went up Kamchatka. He started in Kamchatka, went up along the coast, went past St. Lawrence Island, kept going, but stopped and turned around before seeing land. Went back, wrecked his boat on the way back, died, and they named the entire region over the guy. When the names of the region were already there had been centuries of people going across into North America from Asia. So, this part's funny. So they name everything Bering up there, right? Bering Sea, Bering Strait, Bering Island, Bering everything, right? So Simon Dan, who doesn't believe in the Tartarian Empire, let me find this map. Above the Bering Sea and the Bering Strait was called the Sea of Tartaria. To all you people who don't think, literally named a sea. So, this is Eastern Russia. I guess, Kamchatka's here. This is an old map. Boof! It's not that hard to get over to Alaska and right into California. See California? See the name California? There's only a few other names. There's Sierra. They're saying, this one has a couple more names, but in a overwhelming majority of these maps, you see California being like the main name for the West Coast. Sometimes you see it farther down on Baja, but now this one, it's farther up. So you don't have, Alaska named at all, but they had no idea, this was so cold and blech back then, they had no idea what it really looked like, so you see it really mixed up. The Aleutians were like a land bridge, practically. These guys sailed across here, and they had their eyes on land the whole time, and they were in shallow water. So it really wasn't that hard to migrate down here. So you got the Tartarians who mapped this whole area out and named everything, and they decide to cover up all of that by smearing this guy's name all over him, who didn't do shit but go out there and die. So you always got, it's funny because the West Coast especially, there's so many Spanish names for things, for cities, and we look at all these old maps and they've been named these things for thousands of years maybe, and then all of a sudden you find a harbor or something, or some place that has a totally different name, and it's like, wait a minute, once they start changing the names of places and changing the maps and stuff, you gotta wonder. But yeah, so Bering, this guy's just fail. But they name everything in the region, and they've renamed the Tartarian Sea, which is pretty funny, considering the whole thing about the Tartarian Empire is we're all wondering why they were wiped off the map. And the farther you dig, the more things, the more examples of them being wiped off the map you find. They literally had a sea named after them. North Russian Sea, the sea above Russia, was called the Tartarian Sea. No longer. So Bering's a big part of the BS. Let me see, did I look at all these? So yeah, it's just this whole Tartarians not having a stronghold in the United States is pretty funny. And we're talking, Tartarians were here a long time ago, peeps. And they didn't build all this Greco-Roman shit and all this Baroque stuff. They didn't build all that. That was a second reset. The first reset got rid of the Tartarians. The second reset got rid of the Phoenicians, who built all the grand buildings in all of our capitals and all these structures out of Roman cement that are far older than our history books tell us. All the star forts in the U.S. are ancient. They are not. They were not made in the late 1800s. So anyway, yeah. So they were here, and they were in California specifically. There's a book. There's literally a book written in the 1700s about the Muscovites in California. There it is, right there. You can look it up and read it. This babbling joke for an explanation that I just did is garbage compared to this book. This book is very, very, very interesting. The Muscovites in California. The Tartarians in California. God. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later.